I don't think we have. This is the first. That means that we got through all of that John Cena show with all that 80s cock rock and we never hit Guns N' Roses.
Bravo us. Welcome to a brand new episode of Granny's Peach Tea. Welcome to episode 66.
66. Not as suggestive as 69, but still pretty darn suggestive.
Very suggestive. But yeah, thanks for joining us on this special Memorial Day edition of Granny's Peach Tea. We are working on the holidays because we've been off for a little while. So
we have. Take a little break, little constitutional.
Why not?
Truth be told, guys, I just didn't take the news of the cancellation of Legends well. I needed some time.
And I needed some time because Naomi got canceled. That's why I had to take some time off so I could gather my thoughts for this.
That's right.
But yeah, thanks for joining us on this Memorial Day. If you're catching us live, if it's on Facebook or if it's on YouTube or Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you find the podcast, thank you. We always appreciate it. And it is Memorial Day, so thank you for everyone who, gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country and everything. And enjoy the holiday, and make sure to honor and respect and enjoy the day. And this is a part of you enjoying your day by catching some Granny's Peach Tea.
That's right. Nothing says Memorial Day like some beautiful Granny's Peach Tea.
Absolutely. So and with me as always is Jason. What is up, man?
Hey, man, it's been so long since we've been here. Since we're talking, I think I'm okay now. I think I've bounced back from my my ennui about the cancellation of Legends. I mean, it threw me, man. It threw me. Look, you set me up for Buster Gold, and you set him up for the actor from Scrubs, and then you take that away from me. That's vicious. I need a little time to myself, but I'm okay now. I'm feeling much better these days. As Harry's dad in Night Court would say, which I've also been binge watching, guys. I don't know, anyone who follows me on Facebook knows that I just constantly I will do nothing but post about Night Court at like 2 a.m. when I'm watching it. So yeah, get on that Night Court, guys, if you haven't already, because Ed still needs time to send out these shows, and I got to keep talking.
I wanted to ask you about this Night Court stuff. I'm not doing this just to kill time at all. What is going on with now you're on Night Court? Did you start from like the beginning?
I did. No, I'm a sick man. Because I become obsessed with things. It's not just comic book things. Like, this show gave me a reason to go back and binge thousands of hours of comic book things. And it was a reason I was just looking for, because this is just what I do. Like, I was I was watching Doctor Who for a while from start to finish on the BBC, but that's like 50 years of content, and I need some breaks sometimes. So I was taking a break, and I got on to Maude, which was an old 70s sitcom, and I got really mad that they only had the first 2 seasons, and then I was like, hate looking through Amazon Prime, which is where I find these stupid like sitcoms from my youth, and I saw that they had Night Court, and I saw they had all 9 seasons, and I was like, I forgive you. And then I delved right into it from day one, and like, I'm almost at the end. I'm in the last season now.
See, while you're watching Night Court, I'm finding things like, I'm rediscovering like Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and like kind of like really. So it's completely insane, but or Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, or
great
like
movie.
Whatever the hell. Like,
and the guy in the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, right? The doctor, John Astin, is Harry's father in Night Court, John Astin. Who's Buddy Aston's dad? Yeah, the guy from Lord of the Rings, Samwise. His dad is Harry's dad on Night Court, and the evil professor in Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
All connected.
It's a universe. It's a universe. Aliens, my friend, aliens.
Oh man.
Sorry, I don't know if you know this, Ed, but like, I went on the Aliens version of A to Z a couple weeks ago because I was starting to get we were on hiatus. I had double hiatus with Double O Deep Dive, also coming back tonight. And Eric and I have been like just BSing online, and he was like, "Dude, you should come on the show. We vibe together." And so I showed up as Dr. Zoidberg for like 20 minutes, and I just like with the mask and everything, and then I unmasked and we talked about aliens. So Go check that one out in the archive.
I am gonna go check that one out. Actually, that sounds like it's gonna be an awesome listen on my way to work tomorrow morning.
It should be fun. It should be a lot of good times. It talks about Paul, the movie. But anyway, what do we got? Sorry, Ed, I detracted you twice now. What do we got up today? What's first up?
We got time. No, first up, we're gonna do some trailer reactions because the MCU dropped 2 trailers while we were on our little impromptu hiatus, honestly. But yeah, first it was a trailer for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, which we did not know was the actual full name of the show. And that dropped. So, yeah, there's been some mixed reactions online about, what this trailer looks like and stuff like that. I mean, it was pitched previously as like an Ally McBeal in the MCU. That's kind of what they wanted to go for, more comedic tone.
Tonally is what it looks like, and I'm all in on the tone of this show.
Yeah, me too. And we always talk about it, and we keep saying this to everybody, is that the great thing about the MCU and why it still has like such strong legs is because you keep on giving us new stuff, despite there are some fans who are like, oh, it's the same old thing. But when you look a little deeper than that, it's really not. And that's what we're getting here.
They take chances, and they don't always succeed. And look, this might not succeed, guys, but they're taking a chance. They're trying to give us something that, Ally McBeal in the MCU, that's interesting. That's never been done before. Will it suck? I don't know. But, I mean, like from this trailer, I'm in to check it out. I mean, the tone of this has got me hooked.
Yeah, me too. And I really do think it looks pretty cool. I know I had a conversation on our Facebook page regarding the CGI. And I think the thing that's important about it is, the CGI looks a little wonky. And actually, since it dropped and now, they did re-release the trailer with like updated CGI.
And that's why I didn't even blink at the CGI. Honestly, I don't even think I saw the wonky CGI because it took me knowing that we kept putting off doing the show. I only watched this a couple of days ago. So I think I might have watched the updated one because I didn't actually clock anything wrong with the CGI.
You probably did. You probably got the new one.
But even if I did, guys, we are living in a world with what I call the Sonic the Hedgehog principle, where studios will give us something and get our reaction and then tailor what they do with the CGI based on our reaction, which it sounds like it's what they did here. And it's obviously why I call it the Sonic the Hedgehog principle, because, we had a disgusting, crazy, scary looking Sonic the Hedgehog. And then apparently that movie was awesome. I still haven't seen it, but I do want to.
Yeah, I checked out the first one. The first one was fun. I meant to check out the second one.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen the first one's the one I'm talking about. But so when I heard like things like, oh my God, the CGI is so bad, it's like, for now, they just want to see what you guys think, and you've given your reaction, and if you guys liked it, maybe they were going for something, right? I would actually go so far as to say they might have been going for a look that they knew wouldn't have been popular, but maybe somehow goes with what they're doing tonally, and they were throwing it out there. And the second they saw it didn't work, they went, oh, okay, better CGI. So it's like, that's why I didn't even clock that. Who cares? I was just looking to see at the scenes. I like that we get the Hulk. I like that there's that comedic thing between them where she's like, wait, it feels like if I don't change, I'm going to die. And he's like, like I dig all that stuff. So it's like, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I also do think that a couple important things regarding the CGI part is this. The trailer dropped. It's releasing in August. Okay? It's May. They've got time.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we've seen a bunch of trailers for stuff over time that has been unfinished. Okay, so I would, number one, that's why I was preaching patience as always. I would wait on that. They've already touched it up. I'm sure it'll continue to get touched up. This is not a finished project. If you really do think that studios will finish stuff that far in advance, there is times where some of the biggest movies we see are still being worked on the week of release. So it gets that crazy sometimes. I would be a bit patient with that. If CGI is your only concern, then I wouldn't worry at all. The tone of it and everything, I think works. I think it looks pretty funny. Again, this is still a trailer we're talking about here. We're not talking about the actual show. So I'm excited to see what they have to offer there. I think it looks funny. I mean, also, by the way, besides you mentioned, we get to see Bruce Banner, so it's great to always see Mark Ruffalo back.
Yes.
And we got a lot of questions. I don't know if this show's going to answer these questions regarding when we saw Bruce Banner in Endgame, and then we saw him in Shang-Chi, and then we've seen him now. We just got to answer these questions about his changing back and forth. He's not Professor Hulk anymore, but he is Professor Hulk. It looks like.
I'm willing to bet that it becomes like a turn it on, turn it off thing. Like
he has better control, like mastery of. Yeah.
Right. And to be honest, like you could say hand wave and fine, but I do think if you look at, and eventually we are going to have to actually look at some of like the Hulk's. Sort of arc through this, and it's going to be hard because we're going to have watched a bunch of these movies that the Hulk peaks in already, because the Hulk only gets one standalone movie that's not a Mark Ruffalo movie. But the thing is, like, his story arc is in Avengers 1, he has the iconic line of "I'm always angry," right? That's my secret. And some people call bullshit on that, but the fact is, the character is traditionally his stuff is allegory for trauma. And when you are traumatized, you actually are always angry, and you're always keeping it at bay. So that makes 100% sense. But his whole arc is learning to balance and learning to control. And I think like the next step of being stuck as Professor Hulk is to be able to bounce back and forth between Bruce Banner and Professor Hulk when necessary. So I would not be surprised, nor do I think it would be out of nowhere if that is the stage he's in this show.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to get the explanation in the show of exactly how he's mastered it and what's going on with Professor Hulk and things like that. And yeah, I have a feeling it's just going to be he over time was able to go back and forth. He continued his research after Endgame.
Right.
And that's pretty much that.
Like my biggest problem with the Hulk character, to be honest, is that they skip too much, in my opinion, between Infinity War and Endgame. Like, he just becomes Professor Hulk. But like, I know that we can't have a Hulk movie because of weird licensing issue, but like, I always wanted one more solo Hulk movie with Ruffalo, with Hulk against the leader. Right, and he has
set that up, and it never got followed up on.
Exactly, and the whole thing is the Hulk has to the Hulk hates Bruce Banner because that's the Hulk's weakness, and Banner hates the Hulk because that's his rage, and they have to then combine and become one to beat someone who like the leader. And I think that there was just a missed opportunity there, but that has nothing to do with this. It was just probably the only moment I would get to express that I really wish that movie happened.
I'm hoping that one day that rights thing gets figured out. Universal stops their crap, and they find a way the MCU gets to distribute their film, and they'll do it. Because I have a feeling they would jump on that in 2 seconds.
I think they would, and I think that might be the route they would go too. Because at this point, the MCU knows you can't just give us a Hulk smash movie. You've done that; it was fine, but we're not there anymore.
Yeah, and the other big thing, by the way, we're talking about the movie. Excuse me. Referencing is the Incredible Hulk. We see Blonsky in this trailer. He's very much in this show.
Yeah, Tim Roth himself.
And Tim Roth is here. And it looks like that, or at least it alludes to in the trailer, that it looks like that might be one of her cases that she's taking up, because it looks like she's going to be, a defendant for superheroes or powered people and stuff like that. So that's really, really interesting way to bring him back into the fold. We did see him in Shang-Chi, but I think,
now I know why we got him in Shang-Chi, because that was to remind the audience he exists.
No, and he gets name dropped on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also.
He does a couple times actually.
Yeah, right? He does actually. Mm-hmm.
God, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that from the beginning at some point.
There you go. You're welcome. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty pumped for it, and again, it's. Besides us doing this show, I'm genuinely interested in seeing what She-Hulk has to offer. It's a change of pace, and that's kind of what I dig. That's what I personally dig about the MCU a lot. Besides the quality, is that we get different things, and this looks like another one.
And I think really also important, I was attracted to She-Hulk in the comic book as a green woman way stronger and taller than me. And I'm still attracted to She-Hulk in this show as a green woman way stronger and taller than me. So I think, they kept the important parts there.
Fair enough. The other trailer that dropped here, and speaking of the MCU continuing to take chances, is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Not Love and Ragnarok, like I said.
No, not Love and Ragnarok, because Love and Ragnarok, maybe that's the sequel.
They
combine both of them too. They challenge the devil's anus again. Yeah, so the big reveal in this one is we get to see Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, who looks terrifying.
He does look fucking terrifying, my God. And I also want to be clear. He looks terrifying because of the makeup. He looks terrifying because of the shots. He looks terrifying because Christian Bale is a terrifying man.
When he wants to listen, Christian Bale is one of my favorite actors working.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Christian Bale's an actor who, if I saw him in real life, let's say you and I were like in a movie theater and I saw Christian Bale off to the side, I'd see him, I'd smile to myself, but I wouldn't tell you until after. Because I'd be so afraid if I told you and you went over there and he knew I sent you over there, he'd kill us both. Because he's that intense of a guy, You don't want to mess with Christian Bale. I just want to stand and be in awe of him.
Like we, there's those stories that came out on the was it Terminator Salvation set when he went off on that dude.
I've seen and that's why he scares me so much, because I've watched the video and I've heard he gives that guy the business. If Christian Bale gave me that business for any reason, I would go home and kill myself.
But he looks really menacing, really terrifying.
That's great.
This is the first time we really got to see him. He looks great. It looks like we're going to be set up for, and it's Christian Bale. So,
and is that the line he gets? Something like, gods go on and fail us. I will kill all gods. It's a really menacing moment in the trailer with him.
Yeah, and I guess there's also I've seen a line where it raises some questions about the gods in the MCU, because we get gods, physical form gods, in the sense of Asgard and Thor and Loki and Odin, right. And then Moon Knight just introduced Khonshu and everyone else, which I think are just more specific to Egyptian gods.
Yeah, but one can make the Star Trek argument, our gods are just really advanced creatures that have come here elsewhere. Yes, they are the Egyptian gods, and yes, they give us Egyptian iconography, but you can easily go, it's an alien thing, guys. Hand wave it, alien thing, Beyonders involved, gods, alien, same thing. So it's they could get themselves out of that.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm not really hung up on it at all. I mean, plus it'd be kind of cool if they didn't, if Gore name dropped a couple of Egyptian gods that he happened to take out. That would be pretty sick.
That would be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the hippo. Leave our hippo alone.
No. You don't mess with her. She's too awesome. But yeah, we get that, and we also get to see more of Jane Foster's Mighty Thor in this one, which is cool to see. I mean, I think that whole dynamic between the two of Thor Odinson and Jane Foster is going to be interesting. I'm curious to see where they go with how she becomes worthy. I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
I would like to see that too. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to save it for the discussion later. Mm-hmm. But Jane is not a character I ever liked in the MCU.
Okay.
Ever. And I don't think she's actually a necessary character for a lot of Thor's character building and his arc. Mm-hmm. And I'll discuss why later on. So as much as I'm happy to see the Jane Foster Thor, I'm kind of I don't like this Jane Foster. So why could we have gotten another female Thor that made more sense? And because I don't think she ever really fits in this.
Well, I think that before we get, we're going to talk about the original Thor movie at the end of this, and we'll talk about the
Dark Thor World will be next week, because they're tied in.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's interesting to see. I did get to read some of Jane Foster Thor in various comics that I've read, not her own comics, but some Avengers and stuff like that. So I think she's pretty cool to get in there. But in the comics, the short version is Thor Odinson is deemed unworthy of Mjolnir. And after Nick Fury whispers something in his ear at the time, and he becomes unworthy, so therefore, there's a point where the Frost Giants and everything else is invading Earth, and there's no one to stop them at that moment. and then Jane is deemed worthy and gets Mjolnir, and obviously is given the power of Thor, which in the first movie, which we just rewatched, we know that Odin whispers into the whole thing. We know the, whoever he who holds the, and I don't mean he in the sense of, I don't think he meant like male. They, whoever.
Yeah.
Whoever, put it this way, whoever holds the damn hammer gets the power of Thor, basically put. And that's what happens. She ends up getting the hammer. We saw Captain America. We saw Steve Rogers in Endgame get the power of Thor. He's calling out lightning and flinging it all. You could tell he was super powered and super charged up, besides the super soldier serum when he fought Thanos. So, it ties in with me. I'm curious to see with it. And plus, she, in the comics, she has cancer when she gets Mjolnir and becomes Thor.
And that's the
thing. I'm sure that they're going to go with that again.
In the comic, I think the character in the comic is way more important to the, the character development and all that, because that character was there in the 60s back when Thor was and remember 60s Thor was weird. He was a doctor, and if he didn't have the hammer for 60 seconds, he became the doctor, and he actually had a limp, so he was but she even predates the rebirth of his character, where it makes a bit more sense. So I get all of that in the comic, but I think because she's so absent in the important movies where Thor has his character moments, and absent in such a way of we've broken up, or what is she? She's in this, and she's in Dark World. That's it.
Oh, she's in Endgame.
Right.
It's not. It's actually reused footage.
Yeah, so she's
the Dark World. Yeah.
The actress is really not in Endgame, and she's really not. And so it's it's different when Pepper Potts in Iron Man 3 gets the Iron Man suit. You're like, holy shit. Because though Pepper Potts, though the actress is hey, you know what? I'm going to come back for these Iron Man movies, but I'm not real. I'll do your Avengers movie, but you can't have me on roll at speed dial every time someone takes a shit and you need me to make a cameo. I respect that, but she's there for the big Iron Man moment. So when she gets a big Iron Man thing, it's wow, okay, great, about time. But it's nothing against Natalie Portman, but it's you've been in 2 Thor movies. You've been in the worst, in my opinion, anyway, 2 Thor movies, and
that's not a secret. You're not giving it away.
No, I'm not. And then you disappear, and then all of a sudden you get to come back as Thor herself with Mjolnir. It's I'd much rather actually have seen it gone to the chick from the pizza shop thing. No, I'd much rather see it go to her partner in this movie, Thor, the 2 guys who are in the pizza shop, because at least she's put some time into the franchise. She's there for WandaVision. She's still doing things. She's not just Darcy. I forget her name. I'm terrible with names. But so I think that's my problem with seeing this version of Jane Foster as Thor. It's Jane Foster as Thor I don't think this Jane Foster in this whole MCU is worthy to be getting this mantle. I think there are other characters worthier to take up the mantle of a sort of female Thor.
So, my quick guesses before we we wrap up this section is, I'm gonna guess this one, and just based on a little thing that's dropped in this trailer when they're talking about time, I think Jane was blipped.
Oh, I think she so?
I think she was. I think she was blipped because remember there's a scene in the trailer where it's talking about time. Yes, and she's how long has it been? 2 years?
And he goes, no, 7.
No, yeah, he says 8 years, blah, blah, blah. He's joking around 6 months and 3 days, but who's counting? Because I do think that there's, and plus when you look back to Ragnarok and Jane is mentioned by those fans, you can tell Thor still kind of has a thing, he's still kind of broken up about it. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you completely. But my only rebuttal to that is I just think that where they chose to take Ragnarok, Jane really wouldn't have fit. Otherwise, they probably would have kept her in. 100%. And in Endgame, there's already enough characters. And in Infinity War, there's just a lot going on. So Thor ended up doing so much off-world stuff after Age of Ultron. Remember when he went to search for the Infinity Stones and stuff? Yes. I just feel like Jane really wouldn't have made sense. Because Thor hasn't been on Earth in a while. Until when he returns in Infinity War. So that's and I think they're going to give her more more character development in the beginning of this film. I have a feeling.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because we don't really get it in the two Thor movies. And I guess that's another reason why I'm like, why? Because there are other characters I'm more invested in that they've taken the time to develop. But you're right. If she was blipped, that's a great reason why she wasn't around. And if they take the time, and I'm sure they will, if that's what they're going to be doing, to develop this character in the beginning of this movie, yeah, it could work.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think both of us can be right at the same time with this. Both things can be true and sure. Right at the same time, because I don't totally disagree with you either. But I think they've left some breadcrumbs here and there of her importance, but she hasn't really been on screen, so you can't really feel a lot of it. So yeah, I can see that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our CW section of this episode, and this is going to be a lot less CW section of our show moving forward. Yep. Yeah.
That's sad.
Naomi has had it since our last episode has officially been canceled by the CW for a lot of reasons, which we can get into, or at least we can speculate, because there really hasn't been like official reasoning given. But they did premiere their 2-part series finale at the time, which turned out to be, season finale, which turned out to be series finale because afterwards it got canceled. The overall thing is she got to go ahead and like fight. She ends up fighting Brutus eventually after her human like family, I guess, or a group of adults were trying to tell her to kind of like run away, and Scooby Gang gets back together, and kind of we get to see them one more time.
God,
which by the way, I felt weird about the Scooby Gang. By the way, how are 3 of the members of the Scooby Gang attracted to Naomi?
Oh, everyone's attracted to Naomi. We just don't know it. Naomi's the perfect person. She's literally Jesus Christ, but even more perfect. The sun rises for Naomi and sets to Naomi. I mean, at least that's what the show tells me.
That's what the show will lead you to believe.
And I think that's... I want to say that I think this actress is wonderful, and I hope she goes on to do other things. But God, what a crappily written character Naomi was. Like, so perfect in every way that, like, everything that happens, I'm like, this is all sickening.
So she ends up fighting Brutus eventually, which was pretty underwhelming.
What a missed opportunity. I actually really want... I almost texted you about this. So she gets into... The whole thing is, like, these 2 assassins, quote-unquote, lure her to the factory where they've opened up a portal into the other Earth, and then she, like, beats the assassins with the Scooby Gang, and we'll talk about that later, I hope, because it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, that whole scene.
Run with it. Go with it.
Because it's like, so it starts with the Scooby Gang going, no, Naomi, we love you, we're going to help you, and her going, I have superpowers, you don't. She runs out, and the next thing you see is, you think I'm here alone? Scooby Gang! And then they're literally on walkie-talkies standing next to each other, and every reference you could possibly make is in this scene. It's like, oh, Ed, what's your name? Your name's going to be Aragorn, Budweiser, Mario, Luigi. Me, I'm going to be Spider-Man, Punisher, Nick Fury, Howling Commando. Everyone else, Tim. Oh, Tim's going to be Homer Simpson and Ned Flanders and the Simpsons in Springfield. Like, it's just a vomit. It's just one vomit and that's why when you texted me, like, there was an
Admiral Akbar reference in this.
An Admiral Akbar in this, and I was like, there's literally a fucking reference to everything in this episode.
Jason, they were pretty much saying, Jason Freshetick, we've seen your Granny's peach tea shit. Look, we're giving you fucking Admiral Akbar. Love us. Please love us.
And it wasn't enough, guys. It wasn't, because it was too much. It was too much. But so she goes, so the whole thing is, all right, now I'm just complaining about a whole section of the thing, but she goes to fight Brutus, and I actually dig the guy they got to be Brutus.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
Because he's like an older, more like bigger, slovenly guy with a big beard. And he starts off like, what, you think I'm the villain? I saved this planet. And I'm like, oh, wait, are they going to do something interesting here? And he goes, oh, you don't know about your real origin? Let me give you some memory. Because you think I'm the villain. And I'm like, wait a minute, is the twist going to be that he's not the villain? And then he just tries to kill her, and she escapes because she's super Jesus, and then people sacrifice him. Then Zumbadu and Sacrificial Lamb come over, and I know that she's been in it a couple times, but like in all of the adults, if you had to name one the Sacrificial Lamb, it would be the blonde woman.
Yeah, Kira.
Yeah. I couldn't even remember her name. That's how sacrificial she was. Yeah, and then they come back.
Shirt. She might as well have shown up in a red shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And then Zumbadu saves Naomi, and that's it. No, Brutus is the villain. He's really a bad guy, and there was no cool twist. Oh, and if you suspected that Naomi's parents were evil, which I did, which we all did, if you were fucking paying attention, you should have suspected this 12 episodes ago. They are.
Oh, wait, you stole me. You kidnapped me. And guess what? You don't get to see that payoff because the series got canceled.
And who cares? Like, I mean, honestly, if it took, because again, that's a payoff that should have started. We should have met Brutus in episode 12. Mm-hmm. Again, cut the Scooby Gang. Cut those motherfuckers out. You keep two of them. I want to say that there's a plot line in this where stock white kid number 1, who has a crush on Naomi, wants to start this whole thing to Superman because he's sniffing around her because she's single now. And I spent that whole episode going, wait, why does her annoying best friend's boyfriend want to fuck Naomi? I mean, because that's stock white guy number 2. Because they're so similar, I couldn't differentiate them. Like, you give me 7 very similar kids.
Scooby Gang was rough, man. I hope they find other stuff to do. I saw the kid you're talking about, stock white kid number 1, that was doing the Superman thing. He was in The Walking Dead World Beyond.
Okay.
Who was also stock white kid number 1 in that as well. So he hasn't really progressed just yet.
I mean, hey, everyone's got to pay the bills, but it's like you can't give me and here's the thing. Here's when this show worked for me, because I think we're in the postmortem now.
Yeah, we're good.
Here's when this show worked for me. Whenever Zumbado was on screen, that guy is your MVP. I get they didn't want to overuse him, and I don't think they did, but they needed to put him a bit more in the focus. I really wound up liking the Hawkman, not Hawkman.
D.
I forgot his name. Yeah. He was, I think they used him well. Her parents were goddamn annoying. It was obvious they were evil from the beginning. Stop with that. Cut that. Get rid of them 12 episodes into this. And have
her,
Zumbado
were the best ones.
Absolutely. And then they brought in Red Shirt, and she could have stayed. I actually did like her. We could have just lost her parents. Don't make Naomi so goddamn perfect. I mean, I'm supposed to believe that the 2 people who raised Naomi with this open, loving environment where we always talk and Naomi is always right and she is the smartest and most beautiful person ever, were evil murderers who turn in the last second where her father goes, we were just trying to save the planet. It's because they give that turn they're still holding on to those ideals. It's I'm sorry, but you can't actually raise a kid as good as Naomi if you have an ulterior motive. Done. You can't. Yeah. That's it. And so that made no sense. And then they needed to look at the fucking kids and go, okay, we're going to keep Lourdes because she's the only one who's actually not in school and interesting. We're going to keep one of the stock white kids, only one. We're going to keep Naomi's best friend, but make her way less fucking annoying. And then we're going to kill everyone else. And there you go. That's your cast. And you work with after episode 12, you start working on, okay, this is what's going on in the other world. But we had a whole season of her finding out her parents are evil and her friends are annoying. And we learned that in the first 2 episodes. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry the show is gone.
I'm not either. I mean, anyone who's listened to us, throughout the season can tell that, we weren't biggest fans of the show. It turns out, honestly, apparently we're not the only ones who weren't thrilled with it because, it got canceled. The ratings weren't fantastic. There's also the looming sale of the CW, which I think that unless you're really crushing it, or your series is probably not going to get kept.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They greenlit that Gotham Knights show, which had that terrible poster that we all ragged on our Facebook page. But Superman and Lois made it, and Flash has another season, and Stargirl may or may not make it. We'll see. But apparently Naomi did not. It's the only CW show, DC one, that only lasted one season.
Yeah.
Since the Birds of Prey, which was
that's
20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's when this was the WB.
Birds of Prey was better than this. I was way more entertained by Birds of Prey than I was than this.
Agreed. Yeah. I agree.
It was cheesy, it was goofy at times, but it was more entertaining than this. And like we've always said, is that the biggest problem you can have is if you're boring. And this was boring at times. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times. And again, it was just I think they were trying to make some of their characters too perfect or too this or too that. It's like they didn't just let them breathe. Like, I would have loved if Naomi had some flaws.
I agree. Or maybe don't drag out the mystery as long as you did. Because I felt like they took way too slow with that.
That should have been half the season, and then the other half of the season should have been something else.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that's enough. Naomi.
Bye, Naomi.
We had fun.
Yeah.
But now we're on to The Flash, season 8, episodes 14 through 16. Because
all right,
we haven't been on a little bit. So, Jason, what do you got with what's been up with The Flash lately?
All right, so I think we can agree that through all 3 episodes, Joe is the best dad in the world. I'll get to that. but I don't even have to get to that. He's the best dad in the world. Always. So, all right, so 14 is literally everyone dealing with Frost's death, and Frost is apparently dead. For now.
Yeah, for real.
For now. But there's a difference between being dead between episodes, dead for real for now. It's different.
The thing is this. I'll say this. There was no fake death.
Yes.
I think that's what we'll learn, because as you're going to get into, Katie is trying to play Dr. Frankenstein a little bit. So if we do get Frost again, it's not going to be the same exact one if we do.
Yeah. So 100%. So and that's the thing. So Kate's whole thing and all three of these episodes is she is so distraught over losing Frost that, like, in this episode, it's all about Frost's death and her funeral and all of her friends doing things to honor her. Kate won't even go to her funeral. She rips Barry apart, rightfully so, by the way. Barry's an asshole in that episode in a bit, but also he's grieving, so I'm going to give him some room about that. But
she also uses the thing that everyone uses on the show with Barry. What if it was Iris?
Yeah,
everyone uses that one.
Everyone does, but you know what though? If it was Iris, Barry'd be stabbing your ass in the back to bring her back. Barry don't give a shit
because they know that. Yeah. They know that too.
Right. The moment Barry could say if it was Iris, I'd let her die, and then he would, they'd lose all ground. But Barry also knows, that's why I think Barry's being messed up in all 3 of these episodes, because all 3 of these episodes in the background, Caitlin's trying to bring Frost back, and the whole thing is Frost was created, Handwave, as part of my subconscious with Frost powers, and then I would use the mirror gun to give her own life, and so I'm going to do the same thing now because she's still there, which is madness and won't work. And if it gives us any Frost, it will be a Frost that is not the Killer Frost with the experiences and memories that we knew.
Like White Vision.
It would be White Vision. That's exactly who it would be.
I request elaboration.
All right, so Katie, you are like this Viking ship. But so that's the whole thing about this. My big takeaway from this episode: Chester and Allegra need to fuck already.
Oh, hold on! Wait a second! No, time out. Before we even that, by the way, Angie said the same thing when she was watching stuff. Yeah, she did literally the same thing. So, it was episode 14.
Yep.
Big moment for me in The Flash, by the way. Thank you for bringing that up. So if you follow us, you know I complain about Allegra every week that we talk about The Flash. Every single week. How she's useless. She's still useless. But the thing is, in the beginning of episode 14, they're going to stop that guy Blockbuster The villain of the week. By the way, who I thought was an awesome, cool villain. Yes. No, that was his name.
No, I know it's an awesome, cool villain.
I'm not being a dick.
Like when you said that was absolutely his name. But when you said that, I pictured someone in a like Blockbuster video return thing, like,
yes.
Yeah, you be kind, rewind, or die.
Oh, I pictured just like a big videotape of like the blue Blockbuster thing with arms and legs, and he's like robbing banks and shit.
Well, that's who I pictured doing that. Be kind, rewind the videotape.
Oh man, they would get you. No, but Allegra, we see Allegra in the field, actually using her powers for once, even though she gets her ass kicked by Blockbuster. But she attempted to do something on the show.
She did. It was amazing.
Huge moment. She tried to do something.
Allegra using those powers once.
Yes. Incredible. Even though it's completely she gets destroyed. And also, damn it. Wow, I can't believe name for it right here.
Chester?
No, Joe's wife.
Cecile.
Cecile was in the field
and don't forget,
first time.
Don't feel bad. I forget her name every goddamn week. I have to write it down. But
and
you're right, yes.
And now I forgot once.
And she does that thing like, oh, I'm going to see how he's feeling and see if I can manipulate that. And I was watching that going, what the fuck are those two in the field?
I was shocked, even though they get their asses handed to them. But at least they tried.
They did something. They both used their power. Like, although Cecile shouldn't be using her powers that way. I mean,
yeah, no, she should definitely not. But no, Cecile's way more. She does way more in this show than fucking Allegra does.
That's what I'm.
Nothing.
And that's my point. Like, Cecile doesn't have to prove herself by going and fucking with the enemy's emotions in the field. Cecile does she is pivotal behind the scenes Team Flash.
No, for sure. She usually gets something to do every week, even though she might be one of the worst mothers ever because her kid gets mentioned once a season, like in passing.
You know what? But to say that would mean that Joe is one of the worst fathers ever, and I'm not willing to admit that. So the fact is that the Still Force exists to take care of their kid when they're out doing Team Flash stuff. So just hand wave that shit. Don't ask. Don't question.
I'm gonna pass that on to Angie because, dude, every single episode she's like, "All right, where's the kid?
Yeah,
who's watching this kid? Why do they have a babysitter 24/7 like a nanny? If Mary Poppins is in their fucking house watching this kid."
There's a pocket of reality that only exists in television. It's the same thing that happened when, if you remember in Family Matters, one of the sisters went upstairs and never came down. Same thing happened to Richie Cunningham's older brother in Happy Days. He went upstairs, never came down. Whenever you become inconvenient to a television show, you ascend to the pocket dimension. You live in heaven there until you are needed again.
And I was gonna mention something else. For other viewers who watch Game of Thrones. I know Jason's not a Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I'm not.
You should, though. I think you would dig it.
I will get into it eventually. I have the HBO Plus now.
Yeah, so the direwolves. Jason, you'll remember this. When you watch the episodes, there are direwolves that the Star Kids get in the first season, and those motherfuckers disappear for seasons on end. Angie's always like, oh, there's ghosts and stuff. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Where's he been? Come on now. So, yeah, it's just, you're right, Jason. There's just this pocket dimension of,
that's it.
It's called the convenience zone.
I like that, the convenience zone.
When you come out of the convenience zone, it's when you're needed. So there you go.
Oh, Richie Cunningham's older brother's still sitting there, like doing his algebra homework from the 50s. Like, they'll need me soon. I'll be coming down those stairs soon, Mr. Richie Cunningham.
We got a quick comment here from Alex, though. Let me just drop this. Alex, what's up, man? It's been a while. Afternoon's episodes hit different. Absolutely. Sorry I missed the She-Hulk trailer. I really want to know how it's connected to Shang-Chi because Hulk was in the post-credit scene along with Wong, and Abomination was also in both. Alex, so we don't have to rehash it. We did Be Kind Rewind. And go ahead and take a look at our breakdown of the She-Hulk trailer because we did mention that too. Not that we have any solid answers because we don't, but we got some speculation for you there. So,
although speculation I didn't drop that I'll drop now. I think Wong. I think he wants to get with She-Hulk.
Oh, wow. Saying. Okay. All right.
That's a prediction. Mojo prediction for the next phase.
Mojo prediction. I think Wong is actually in She-Hulk also, though, so you might not be told.
Dude, if Wong hits on or makes any attempt, makes it known at all that he's attracted to She-Hulk, I win. I win the Mojo prediction.
Fair enough. I'll give you that one.
All right, so that leads us into 15 Flash, which this whole thing is Caitlin, as I said, she wants to create a new body with her memories of Frost. But then Dion shows up in the Still Force. And then he gets the Flash into the Still Force. And he tricks the Flash in the Still Force. And then he gets accessed into the Still Force, I guess, to help the Flash because he felt bad about trapping the Flash in the Still Force. Like it's just a lot of like it's one of those Flash episodes where you're like, all right, this man just heavy lifting right here. Your biceps are huge with all the heavy lifting of plot you're doing. But what I want to ignore all of that since I'm doing these quickly and talk about two notes I made. Holy shit. Chester has consequences to his dangerous podcasting with Flash Tech because they get like some Flash Tech back. And he's like, no, I showed the internet how to create this thing and they turned it into a weapon. Am I the evil one? Should I not be podcasting dangerous technology to people? I don't know. And Allegra, who a couple of episodes back was like, you fucking idiot, don't podcast dangerous technology. People goes, no, Chester. We still haven't fucked yet, so I have to appease you. Keep podcasting your dangerous technology because somehow it's okay now. And then at the end of the episode, guess what? No consequences. He gets to keep putting dangerous technology in podcasting because it was created for good purposes. Like this is like the stupidest and worst message ever.
It's stupid. It's insanely stupid. Yeah, Allegra actually did try to warn him a couple episodes ago.
Yes,
she tried to do something like important.
It was the one thing we gave to her at that point. We were like, hey, she's trying to keep dangerous technology off the internet.
She's productive. A productive member of Team Flash.
Because Chester's literally like, hey, yo, what's up, guys? Me, Chester P. Runk, and I'm here. And, yo, for Team Flash, because I work for Team Flash, yo, I just built a nuclear device. I did it for peaceful purposes, but, yo, I'm going to show you how to build a nuclear device and do whatever you want with it, Chester P. Runk. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that.
It's pretty dangerous.
Yes.
Chester, don't do these things. That's funny.
So that's that episode. And then, and Excess is in that episode, and, you know, she shows them that Iris is fine in the future. Hand wave. I guess that actress just needs a break, right?
I guess because Iris has been she's been kind of like off screen for quite some time, but getting mentioned quite a bit. I'm very curious to see what happens when you talk about this next episode, because Team Flash was doing something that you do in real life.
Well, I was going to say that this episode has two things that hits my personal thing. The first is it is based on the F. Scott Fitzgerald story, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is called The Curious Case of Bartholomew Allen. And it has Flash pretty much getting hit with a reversal ray, and he gets older, like really quickly, right? Like he's not.
He ages backwards. Like he ages like what the hell did they say? Was it 20 years or something like that in a matter of like a day or something?
Oh, I think I actually thought I wrote that down. But yeah, he like 20 years in a day. It's crazy. But this episode starts out with Team Flash playing D&D, which I loved. Joe is sitting there, hard drinking scotch, not having it. I love that too. Joe's sitting there with scotch, like, and they're all like, "Oh, use your Vorpal sword," and they're actually throwing out D&D lingo, like it was authentic. Whoever
that's
wrote
what
that.
I wanted to know. That's what I wanted to know.
They use stuff where I'm like, all right. Okay. So someone who wrote this knows the game, but Joe's just like, Vorpal sword. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about. I'm just drinking scotch. You know?
So your fandom for Joe West went up that much further then.
It did, because as much as I love D&D, I also love cranky old Joe West drinking scotch, telling people, "Y'all go fuck yourselves. The game sucks."
That's great.
And then lots of stuff happened in the middle. So it's a evil mad scientist who is pretty much using something to make everyone in the city age quickly while he takes their age so he can become invincible. And Barry's getting older, and he realizes that he's just going to sacrifice himself. And of course, he doesn't realize he'll be fine. We all do. And he does that, and he's fine. And he brings the guy into justice. And then all is that to say, we get to the end of this episode where we end on D&D almost. And everyone is sitting around and we're like, all right, Joe, we could just like make this a police thing in the CCPD or whatever you want to do. And Joe comes out in a wizard's outfit, still hard drinking scotch, which I love that. Because he comes out in the wizard's outfit and goes, nah, Joe's drunk. Joe's great. Joe's going to fuck some shit up with his wizard stuff.
Yeah, he was,
That was my favorite. That's my favorite part of those 3 episodes is Joe playing D&D, both having it and not having it, and being drunk on scotch both times. And then this ends with Barry. I'm going to say this: a big dick move on Barry's part. Barry goes and confronts Katie, who has been avoiding everyone, and finds out what her plan is, which is to use the mirror ray to bring Frost back. And he like takes the mirror ray, which fine, his right. That's Team Flash stuff. If she wants a mirror ray, she could just like follow Chester's podcast like everyone else and build her own. So he could take that back, but then he uses power to destroy all of her research and work. And I don't know what any of those vials and test tubes and liquid had to do with bringing Frost back, but it had something to do with it. And that wasn't his right to do. He couldn't make that decision for Caitlin. I think that's messed up.
Well, I think I guess he was just trying to shut her down from playing Dr. Frankenstein, essentially.
Right. No, fair enough. But it wasn't his call.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I am still curious to know, though, overall. So we have Caitlin trying to recreate Frost. We have Iris with the time sickness. Right? Dion's being a dick.
One might say that Iris is down with the sickness. Sorry. I apologize for that in advance.
I thought it was pretty good. And that's kind of it. That's the through lines that we have for this season. So I still don't know. There isn't that many episodes left in the season.
No. I'm going to posit this, and I do hope, and I say this as a fan of this show, I do hope next season is the end.
Yeah.
And I hope it's only a half. And here's my rationale. As much as I did like parts of Crisis on Infinite Earths, I believe that particular Crisis event killed Flash. Because the Flash, because again, I watched these back to back to back, not about a year ago at this point. Mm-hmm. When we started getting the Crisis stuff, Flash had overarching stories throughout their season, and they would take a break from that story for 3 or 4 episodes to do their like Crisis, right? Mm-hmm. Crisis on Infinite Earths was the season where we had Bloodborne. Bloodwork, thank you. Yeah. Bloodwork lasted a half a season because in that season they changed their whole way of thinking of a whole season of overarching story, taking a break for this is the thing, and we just have to fill the other 2 parts of the season. And that's where we get Bloodwork and whatever the hell happens after Bloodwork and Crisis on Infinite Earths, I don't remember. And then the next year after, it's a similar thing where they hit the midpoint and things change. And all of a sudden they're trying to give us 2 small seasons in their full season, but they're not actually, and you can do that, but they're not doing it. They're not making it satisfying. And I think that really killed it. And that's what we're getting here. That's why we're aimless, because, well, our midpoint was Katie's husband, what's his name?
Deathstorm.
Thank you, Deathstorm. But he's gone now. So now what's the next thing? I don't know. We're going to just twiddle our thumbs because we don't have a Crisis event to save us here. We already did that in the beginning. So we're just going to twiddle our thumbs and see what comes. And that's what I feel they're doing here.
So they're on hiatus next week and the week after. And then their finale is shortly after that. So there's only like 2 episodes or 3 episodes left in the season. And we still don't know what the overarching thing is. Is it the time sickness? Is Dion the villain? Is he the big bad? Because we don't have a big bad of the season.
My prediction is the big bad's going to be Frost. My prediction is that
Frankenstein Frost.
Yep, they're going to bring back a Frost. It's going to be, as you said, a Frankenstein Frost, patent pending. We're going to use that from now on, and Frankenstein Frost is going to be the villain. Yeah, and we'll have 4 episodes to deal with that, plus the time sickness.
No, I think we have 2.
2, just 2.
I think we have 2 because because I know that they announced the finales for Superman and Lois and Flash. I think both shows only have 2 episodes left this season.
Okay.
So
all right.
They both end in June. So,
all right. So we'll have 2 episodes to bring Frost back, make her the villain, put her down, deal with the time sickness. Dion won't be a villain. It'll be another one of those, like, look at last season. All of that, the half end of last season was like all of the forces are evil. And then one by one they aren't. Now they're all your friends again. So it's like, we'll get something. I don't think it's going to be Dion. Dion will just be like, oh, sorry, Flash, but the him and the babada and the booba da babada. Still Force. Oh, okay. Oh, shit. Yeah, you got me there. Love conquers all. Is Iris okay? Of course she is. Great. Speed on. Run, Barry, run. I've leveled up.
Wow. And by the way, no level up in these 3 episodes.
No level up for a while, and I'm appreciating that.
And there were opportunities where that could have happened.
Oh, I thought we were getting it. I actually, at one point, went, you've leveled up? And they didn't say it, and I went, ooh.
Bravo. Bravo for resisting that. All right, so we'll get to those the end of the Flash this season in a couple of weeks because they're on hiatus. So, all right, so our movie of the week is we decided to start counting down the MCU Thor films leading up to Thor: Love and Thunder in about a month. So we're going to be kicking things off with the original Thor back in 2011. Wow, it's an 11-year-old movie now. Jesus,
crazy, very crazy.
A very different Thor that we got back then we were introduced to. But this also introduced us to Clint Barton, by the way. This is his first appearance in the MCU.
I forget that this is Clint Barton's first appearance. Like, I forget a lot about this movie, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I forget that Coulson is such a big part of it. Because this also no, we've seen Coulson, like, he's the through line. We've seen him in Iron Man.
He got introduced in it, yeah.
But I also forget, and this is what Coulson makes me forget. I forget that Coulson was a through line in the first phase of the MCU, and it was not, in fact, like Nick Fury. Like, Coulson is in all of those movies, like, getting shit done. And
yeah, he's an integral part of the story.
He is, and then he sacrificed himself, kind of, from movies, to make the Avengers happen. So, like, I forget that happens. I forget that Loki was ever a baby, and that's why I'm Loki Jr. today, because watching Hiddleston do Loki, like, and obviously this is his first time doing it, and it's their first time writing it, but it's like, oh my God, this is like Loki baby. It's Loki Jr. This isn't the real Loki that we're going to come to love, but I see where it happens.
Yeah, we see the birth of Thor, basically, and the birth of Loki, and their character development over the arch of the MCU has been pretty tremendous when you look at where we're at right now with them. Very different. But yeah, we get the MCU Phase 1. By the way, there's also the first Phase 1 MCU movie we're talking about on the show.
Oh, it is. We didn't even do Iron.
No, we haven't
done Iron Man yet.
No Iron Man, no Captain America, First Avenger. We didn't touch Iron Man 2, obviously, then. We didn't. No, none of it. We didn't touch Avengers.
How the hell
or the Incredible Hulk.
Or the first MCU Phase 1 movie I'm doing here.
It's kind of amazing. I was thinking that hit me last night when I was watching the movie. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, this is it.
Because I could literally talk about how much I love Iron Man for days.
Likewise. But yeah, so again, it's very interesting to see where it all starts. Now, we were talking a little bit before the show started, and we can now get to it now. We've seen some, like our friend Bear and others have mentioned how the hell did they get to Thor and Ragnarok, or now in Love and Thunder, when this is where we started out with. Now, my argument for this movie is going to be that I do think the seeds were planted early on in this film for Thor growing to be the person we see him at now. The first time we see Thor, he's about to be crowned king by Odin and passing on the torch, and he's kind of winking at the crowd and being arrogant and hyping up the crowd and everything like that, because that's the essence of the story in this film, right? Is that Thor is cocky, he's overconfident, and then Odin is kind of smacking him down to reality to kind of like let him know, like, listen, if you're going to be king, you got to be humbled a little bit, dude, and I'm going to humble you down until you learn once you learn your lesson, you can go back to being Thor, right? I mean, that's a quick way to
that's the movie.
That's the movie. So I can see where he starts with that, and throughout the movie, there is comedic timing that he has, and they do lean into some funny stuff, and not to where it's not now. But I think as a start to the progression to the character we get now, I think this reaffirms what I've kind of been saying, is that I think you do see it starting here. And Chris Hemsworth is awesome as Thor. I mean, however he's playing him, whether he's being the buttoned up Asgardian version now hero, or like, kind of like the more chilled, laid back, funny guy we see now, for me, it both works.
No, I mean, the cast of this movie, which is also the cast of The Dark World, which I don't think I've made any bones, at least now until I do a full rewatch, is my least favorite of the MCU movies. I think the cast is the strength of this movie. And I agree with you that I think that the seeds were laid to lead us there. I think that the MCU hired Chris Hemsworth, knew Chris Hemsworth was insanely funny, because he is.
Yeah.
Like, my biggest problem with that female Ghostbusters movie is, how do you hire your funniest person to be like a side character? Like, and that's nothing, that is not a shot at any of the four Ghostbusters. I think they're all funny, right? But it's like, Chris Hemsworth is like insanely funny naturally somehow, and I hate him for it because he's also really good looking.
Yeah.
And I think only non-good looking people should be funny. I think there should be a division. But he does both, and fuck him, I love him, but fuck him for it. But I think the MCU saw that, and they started laying the seeds because they knew they wanted to lean more into that. And so I posted something to our friend Bear, and I've given our friend Bear some reasonable shit on this show and in real life about because I love Thor Ragnarok. Like, Thor Ragnarok is my favorite Thor. It's one of my favorite MCU movies. There's so much about it I dig, and he hates it. And I didn't understand it, and him and I usually agree on a lot of things like this, and so I didn't get it. But I get it rewatching this now. I get it, because if you care about Thor in the comic book, this is your Thor. Like, yeah, maybe there's some kernels of fun, but your Thor in the comic book is a straight-laced guy. He does things a certain way. I don't think, and I haven't read Thor ever. So unless things have changed drastically from what I knew from 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s Thor, unless he's become this, like, Chris Hemsworth funny man, I get why Thor fans don't like Ragnarok. Because watching this is Thor in the comic book to me. I'm like, yeah, no, I get why people love this. I don't care about Thor in the comic book. That's my thing.
No.
I really like the funny stuff of Ragnarok, but if I love Thor from the comic book, I don't think I'd like it either. So I get why people like this, even though I'm not the biggest fan.
Yeah, and I also do think that it's important to remember that the Kevin Feige and the MCU in general, they do take liberties with characters. Like, they don't, it's not all, as much as we say we give them a lot of credit for being comics accurate, not everything is comics accurate, but it's usually for the better. So,
yeah, and look at the Thanos stuff. I always say the Thanos stuff. Like, I love Thanos in the comic book. I don't think a comic accurate Thanos would work, because this whole nebulous, I'm in love with death and just want to kill people, whereas interesting in the comic book, is not engaging on the screen as I seek balance.
Way more, way better.
You have to make some changes.
Yeah, and listen, and we both love Spider-Man and Peter Parker, but they've made drastic changes to that as well. Even though it looks like they're coming full circle now with a lot of that, but you embrace the changes, and sometimes you got to go with what's working for your shared universe, and what works on film. What works in the comic books doesn't always work on film.
Yes,
and from what I understand too, part of the thing with the change from this to Ragnarok was because simply Chris Hemsworth wanted to reinvent the character and make it more like himself, versus just playing the same straight-laced Thor, which I can kind of understand.
But I think that's a good choice.
Yeah,
you don't hire someone with Chris Hemsworth's ability and not let him use it. Like, if you just want a pretty face with long blonde hair who can do your leading man stuff, then you find a pretty face with long blonde hair who's looking to do leading man stuff. Chris Hemsworth is funny. Chris Hemsworth has all of these other things and nuances that he brings to the character, which for my money makes him more interesting. So it's like, you either you ride the cult you bought or you buy a different cult. And that's how I kind of feel. And they rode the cult they bought. And I think they really, they made a good money and they've made good stuff with them.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence that those were the more popular Thor films. But back to this one, though, it's also interesting to know that that Chris Hemsworth wasn't. There was also a screen test done for to be Thor as well.
Oh, Hiddleston.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston.
Yeah, I remember he went out. That's who he went out for.
Yeah, and then ended up they chose Hemsworth, and then they decided to go ahead and keep him around for Loki, or give him Loki. Then that wouldn't have worked either. No, Tom Hiddleston as Thor would have worked either.
I don't think so. But I think Tom Hiddleston as Loki is perfect.
Yes.
So they knew they saw what they had, and they cast him, and I don't know. Would you say that Tom Hiddleston got a better deal than Hemsworth, in the sense of character, because he got his own show. He was in a lot. He never got his own movie, but he was in every Thor movie, which he was paid well for, plus all of the Avengers movies that Thor was, that he was paid well for, except for maybe Ultron.
Yeah, it's true. He wasn't in Endgame. Right?
Wasn't in Ultron, but he was in Endgame, right?
No, you're right.
At the end. And then he gets his own show. I think he's had more screen time than Hemsworth in this franchise.
I believe so. I think so. I think he actually has had more screen time because of the show.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's kind of interesting. It didn't work out the way he wanted to at the point, but I think it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, because I think Hemsworth is also very happy, and he's the reason why we got the change down the line.
Yeah, and also Hemsworth has said you got to pry him out of this character. You see people going, yeah, I'm retiring, and he's like, nope, I'm back.
Nope, let's go. Let's keep it moving. But yeah, so I do think I enjoy this film a lot. I do enjoy the first Thor for what it is. I do think it's not the best Phase 1 film. It's not the best Thor film or anything like that. But I think it's a solid entry into both, and I think it serves its purpose where it needs to give us more shield. It needed to get Loki to where he needed to be the villain in Avengers. Obviously, even though there's 2 points I did want to mention about this, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, in the film, we learn that Laffy's son is Loki. Yeah. And he doesn't recognize him when he sees him later on in the film. And then, by the way, and Loki kills him in a heartbeat. I thought that was a little bit weird.
I to be honest, I thought a lot of that Frost Giant stuff, I'm just kind of lost by, because there's so much intrigue, and I even missed that, to be honest with you. And I've seen this movie a couple times. I didn't even realize that was his father that he kills, and his father doesn't realize it, because there's just so much Frost Giant, Asgardian stuff back and forth that kind of, I'm not going to say goes nowhere, but doesn't go far enough that I think it gets lost in. The plot of this movie is Loki is manipulating everyone to get Thor out of Asgard so he could be in line for the throne, but we
He
don't
wants the
know
power. He
that.
wants to be the king. Yeah.
Right, but it's like it's so convoluted at times, and I think that like you had said that they make a point that this is supposed to set Loki on his path to where he like starts being villainous, and it's like I don't think it does a good job of it. I think like we get a better job, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think we get a better job of seeing Loki's character really refined in Thor: The Dark World, because here it's like, all right, well Loki's pulling strings behind, but like, what is his end game? Like he has an end game, but is he going too far, and then things happen that make it easier, and then like. But then in the beginning, like we don't really get a sense of him as being a villain, except that he's Loki, and like I just think that I don't think they set that character up well enough for the fall he has to take. And by the end of this, when he takes that fall, I don't think it's earned.
Well, all right, so let's look at it. Loki, from the word jump, Loki is his game plan is all right. Listen, I'm jealous of Thor. I want to be the next in line. I'm going to ruin his whole coronation. Get him pretty much. I don't think he necessarily. I thought he'd get him in a lot of trouble. I don't think he thought he was going to get him stripped and banished to Earth. But he was pushing his buttons to, because there's that one scene early on in the film where he goes, no, I think you're right. I think you're right about everything. Right about the frost giants, right about all of this. And he's like, there's only one thing you can do. Oh, no, you shouldn't do that. And he takes him and Sif and Warriors 3. They go to Vormir. No, not Vormir. Whatever.
The Ice Giant.
Heimdall,
right?
Heimdall, yes.
Yeah. Which, by the way, as much as I love Heimdall, don't we wish that this actor had a better role in the MCU? Like a more. Yeah, I mean, he's just always such a wonderful actor. Like, I get that they bring him back as much as they can, but what a waste of his talent. But I'm sorry.
Yeah, he gets a little bit more to do later on, but
he does.
Yeah, so they go ahead and he pushes him to do that, knowing he's going to get shit from Odin. And I think his plan was to like get him like maybe imprisoned or maybe jailed or something like that. He was trying to get Thor and to get Thor out of the picture so he can ascend.
Right.
And then he's also he's also willing to get a lot of shit going on, and he also pushes Odin to pretty much get into a coma because Odin is not well from the word jump in this movie too.
Yeah, but I don't think he did that on purpose. Like he seemed surprised by that.
Yeah, well, which if you're the case you're making is that things started turning out well for him because he went into a coma, but I also don't think he was losing any sleep over that either.
No, but the case I'm making is I don't think they establish Loki's character going from point A to point Z like he's supposed to. And I think the point that's supposed to push him and supposed to make us believe that pushes him is like he's really an ice giant.
No.
And I don't buy that because his next move after that is to trick the ice giants and coming and killing them to make himself look like the hero. And it's like, because
he wants to ascend again. His ultimate thing is he wants Asgard. He wants to rule Asgard.
I get that, but I just don't think that. And I get it in subsequent, like when by the time we get Loki, when he's like, I am burdened with glorious power. By the time we get him in Avengers, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on board for this. I just don't think this movie sets, because his character is not supposed to be evil from Jump Street, right? There's supposed to be something there between him and Thor. And I think what this movie wants us to take away is that thing is that he was adopted, so Odin never treated him correctly. But it ignores the fact that Odin could have let this kid die. And Odin and Hera both, honestly, in points of this movie, show that they love Loki as much as they love Thor. So there's something missing for me in his character to why he is able to jump to such extreme. Like oh, Thor, my brother, who's always taken care of me and I've always taken care of, I'll cut you to take care of Asgard. Like there's just a beat missing in this character in this movie for me.
Okay, I can see some of that.
That's one of my, and I think it gets fleshed out as we go along in the series. Like by the time we get to Ragnarok, I think what I love about it so much is their relationship makes more sense to me, and the antagonism makes more sense to me. But it doesn't make sense to me in this movie, and it has to, considering to make that scene work where Loki comes to Thor and pretty much straight up lies and says, "Our father's dead. I'm in charge. I can't let you back because that would make me look weak. You're stuck here. I'd do it if I could." Like, for that to be meaningful to me, I need to see that there was actually something between them before and why there isn't now. And you don't get that in this movie for me.
All right. I can see that. I can see that point. Yeah, and there's there's the stuff with the destroyer and stuff that happens where Loki kind of backs off then, even though he gives him the destroyer gives him the backhand, beats him up pretty good, but still doesn't kill him. That's the thing. I think Loki's thing is he doesn't want to kill Thor. He's just jealous of Thor, and that's where Loki has an internal struggle back and forth, which I'm trying to block out what we know now because we know so much more, and I'm trying to just isolate it to this movie.
I just think that the movie could have done better showcasing that, because there is this movie's 2 hours, and as I said to you before, I feel this movie is 3 smaller movies put together, right? There's the stuff in Asgard, the stuff on Earth, the stuff against Loki, and I think like the unifying factor, and I could have been like this relationship between Thor and Loki that we could have seen in many different ways, and I just don't think they explore it.
But we also get to, let's talk a bit about the supporting cast as well.
For sure.
Jane Foster is here as Natalie Portman. Again, you said you're not too fond of her. She's not particularly interesting. I think she's fine. I mean, she's fine doing what she's given to do. Darcy is the comedic relief.
They fall in love in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which is always been my problem with this movie. Darcy is the comedic relief. I actually really appreciated Darcy much more in this after watching her in WandaVision and kind of seeing her grow. I really appreciated her role much more.
Oh yeah, because in here she's just like the intern with the smart mouth on pretty much on the side, and that's it. And also Doctor.
Oh, I forget his name. Yeah, but
give me 2 seconds. I'll pull that up too.
All right, well, da 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 da. Looking up Doctor. Looking up Doctor.
Oh, and I remembered it before I got there. Dr. Selvig.
Dr. Selvig.
Yeah, no, he's funny, and he gets some funny stuff to do mostly in Thor: The Dark World. But I think he's pretty good in this. He name drops Bruce. Well, not named specifically, but he references Bruce Banner. Yes, he knows Bruce Banner in this. Which when I first saw this, I was like, because obviously Phase 1. So at the time, I'm like, ooh. I remember nudging Angie. He's talking about the Hulk. It's it. They're all coming together. I'll never forget that one. That was pretty cool too. And the subtle Easter eggs that are in this movie and connections to other films, I wasn't too heavy-handed. I thought it was well done, where they kind of just dropped in things like that whilst they were world building, because this is them still kind of like learning how to do it.
Absolutely. This is absolutely them still learning how to world build and figure out what moving pieces can fit with what. So like I give every MCU in the movie in the Phase 1 outside of Iron Man 2 a pass. Because I actually only really like 3 Phase 1 movies. And it's Iron Man, Captain America, Avengers. The others, I don't dislike them, because I don't dislike any of these movies. Even Thor: The Dark World, I don't dislike. But I kind of give them a pass, because it's like they're still learning what's going on. They're still learning how things are going. So, this is them learning how Thor works. So did I love this movie? No, but I appreciated what they were doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then I don't know. I still pretty much enjoy this film for for a lot of reasons. I do kind of like the fish out of water stuff, which we've seen done a little bit better at times over time, even in superhero movies. Like even Wonder Woman, I think does a little bit of a better job at the fish out of water stuff. But it's done pretty solid here. But as an introduction to these characters, I think it's pretty cool. Like we mentioned, Clint Barton gets a very small scene where we get to beat him for the first time. And it was like, oh yeah, look, that's Hawkeye. That's Hawkeye.
Yeah,
Holy shit,
that was awesome. And also, let's not forget, Sir Anthony Hopkins as Odin is a masterful casting choice. He is amazing in this movie, and every time he reoccurs this role,
he commands the screen as always, and you can feel his like I said, you can feel his presence, and that's what Odin requires.
Yes,
I mean, he's fucking Odin. I mean, come on.
And even that scene, like I want to point out that scene because when he comes in and the frost giant, like in the beginning when Thor and the gang are about to get themselves killed by the frost giant, and he comes in and Odin's like, let's not fight. Let us figure out peace. And the frost giant's like, fuck you. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll take my mind and get out of here. It's like he commands that. He literally comes in on like a steed of lightning and like very Odin-esque imagery. So I really appreciated that too.
And then I guess the last ones to talk about would be this Lady Sif in the Warriors 3, which I appreciate their roles in these films. I know what happens to them in Ragnarok. Some people are pissed about, but we can talk about that when we get more to Ragnarok. But they're pretty cool in this movie. I don't mind. Ray Stevenson is there, another one who was recycled from him doing Punisher Warzone because he is Frank Castle in that film.
That's right.
Which we didn't get a chance to cover yet, but
not yet.
Not yet. Unfortunately, we will one day.
If we'll be scraping at the door of the Punisher series at some point.
Yes, we will. But he's good in this. Jamie Alexander's Lady Sif is she's always good in this, and she had her she's appearance later on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. And
I actually remember, like they introduce Enchantress in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., don't they?
I believe so, actually.
Because I remember that's like first or second season. I remember Lady Sif being in that, and that's my favorite use of like the Thor, like this particular type of part of the Thor mythology was the introduction of Enchantress and the use of some of these characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They did it very well.
Yeah. All right. You got any other last thoughts or anything we want to bring up regarding Thor? Or we wrap this one up?
Just that Kenneth Branagh directed it, which I found odd, because Kenneth Branagh is known for directing like Shakespearean and starring in Shakespearean reenactments, and he directed a lot of Victorian literature movies. He directed like Frankenstein. So I kind of was expecting something, I think, more Shakespearean from him. And I didn't get
what they were trying to do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I just was I didn't get it, but I find it really interesting that he was the director of this. But I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
No, I wanted to mention that I think that this was them early on still choosing their directors, where they were like, all right, so let's just go with Kenneth Branagh because he can kind of have like that whole like. I think it was more about Asgard, or maybe the way Thor presents himself, and that's why they chose him. And that's why I find it as a smart choice to maybe go with that, because even they chose their director for Captain America: First Avenger. He directed The Rocketeer, so they were kind of like, all right, I can see.
Realize that. Okay,
yeah, it was Joe Johnson, if I remember right. He went ahead and did that. So they were and they still do it to this day when they'll choose directors based on if they've done similar work to what they're trying to bring to the MCU.
Right. I know, and I recognize that, and that's a whole like Sam Raimi doing Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness because it's our first real horror movie, and maybe it's just because it was an origin story and there was specific beats that had to be met. But like, I feel that they cast Kenneth Branagh, and his whole thing is bringing this literary English gravitas to something, and I don't feel that he did it, and not to his. I don't think it's to his discredit. I just don't think that that's what the story was. Like, I almost would have liked to see him maybe try to direct another Thor movie that was more like if they were going to go more classic Thor. And they're not going classic Thor, so it doesn't make sense. But I get why they wanted him. But I guess because it's an origin story, it's hard to make your stamp on something as a director.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up for this week of Granny's Peach Tea. Thanks for joining us, as always. If you like what you heard, go ahead, join our Facebook group, Granny's Peach Tea. Join also Pop Culture Pros, as that's what we're presented by. We're part of the Pop Culture Bros network. Go ahead and if you got it on YouTube, you can hit subscribe to Pop Culture Pros, Twitter, follow Pop Culture Pros, and Instagram. Do whatever you do on there for Pop Culture Pros, and subscribe to your podcast because we got a bunch of cool stuff going on. If you like baseball and you're into the New York Yankees, you can check out the Empire 161 show. Me and Lisa will be coming on in an hour.
Oh, an hour? What, an hour? You coming on back in an hour?
Be back in an hour. Back at it for baseball. If you're into the Mets, you can check out Faraci and Rodriguez and Keith on the Put It in Book show. If you're into James Bond, you can go ahead and check out Jason, who's coming back later tonight.
At 8:30, I got Ginny and I are coming back to do Octopussy. We got Eric from the A to Z show coming on to discuss Octopussy. We're counting down the Roger Moore. I took a little hiatus, but you know what? We got to keep going. Octopussy tonight, 8:30. Join us.
And if you like what you hear from Eric there, you can check out Eric on the A to Z show on Friday, usually on Fridays. And Jason, I hear he covers everything from
Animal House to Zoolander.
Well, classics, so why not? And everything in between. And if you like wrestling and you like Eric also, check out the Just Too Sweet show. It's him and Eric. They're usually on Tuesday nights. If you also like Tim and you like Star Wars, check out Shooting the Sith. I'm pretty sure Tim will be back soon with Obi-Wan Kenobi because that series dropped last Friday.
It did. I got to get on that.
Yeah, got to get on that, man. Two episodes dropped, so I'm sure Tim will be on soon, sometime this week, to talk about that. If you're into Disneyland, go and check out Skyliner Views with Ashley and her guest of the week. They're usually on Thursday nights. And if you're into basketball, you got the Daily Dribble, which is usually I'm not familiar with the host of that show, but you can go ahead and check them out. And there's also Am I On Now, which also covers different movies and stuff like that as well. So check out Pop Culture Pros to find out whatever it is you're into. And we'll see you next week as we'll be talking about Thor: The Dark World, along with our brand new episode of Superman and Lois. And we have the season 3 of The Boys dropping next week.
Woo! I'm excited to get back into that.
Yeah, so I can't wait, man. First time we'll be covering Boys proper on Granny's Peach Tea, so come check that out next week.
True.
So enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day if you're catching us live, and we'll see you next week. Peace.